What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the 90 Degrees Fightcast. I'm Dil.
And I'm Habib. Today we'll be talking about the dopamine system and changing the way we think about it to increase motivation, productivity, and satisfaction.
So, Habib, why don't we explain to the viewers what is dopamine and how does it actually work?
Sure. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter made in the brain. So it acts basically as a chemical messenger between neurons. Dopamine is released when your brain is expecting a reward. So when you come to associate a certain activity with pleasure, mere anticipation may be enough to raise dopamine levels. It could be something like food, activity, shopping, just about anything you enjoy.
Like going to the gym.
Yeah, like
Me,
going
I
to the
love that
gym.
one.
Or, for example, like suppose your favorite comfort food is homemade apple pie. Your brain may increase dopamine when, like, your dopamine levels, or release dopamine when you smell it baking or see it come out the oven. When you eat it, the dopamine floods. The flood of dopamine acts to reinforce the craving and focus on satisfying it in the future. So, in essence, it's a cycle of motivation, reward, and reinforcement.
It's like for us, it'll be curry. Mm-mm.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when we smell that home cooking curry and we come home and there's a nice smell and you get that feeling, and that's a
Yeah.
dopamine release.
Ah, right. Yeah. So why does dopamine? Why does it actually matter?
Well, sometimes our goals and targets are long term, right? Which can lead to the effort feeling like torture. That's because the dopamine system releases, like the dopamine releases when you achieve your goal. So, for example, you want gym gains, you want to reach a certain level like bench press, you want to get to 100 kilos. You're going to have to go through a lot of effort, right? And if your
Yes.
brain's predisposed or you're predisposed to kind of wait for that goal, isn't it? Only once you release the dopamine would release once you achieve that goal, which kind of causes your effort to feel like torture, right? Which can lead to a lack of motivation. And the reason why I brought it up today is I was watching a podcast by Andrew Huberman. He's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford University. And he released a podcast called Controlling Your Dopamine for Motivation, Focus, and Satisfaction, which I actually recommend everyone to go watch.
I've
And
actually heard about this guy. I've actually heard about it, yeah.
you've heard about him, yeah?
Yeah,
So
I've heard about it.
nice. So he talked about the dopamine system, how it affects the body, and why we should reevaluate the way we think about things so that we can have a steady flow of dopamine release. And a study at university where researchers took a group, there was a study, right? And researchers took a group of children who had an innate willingness to draw and decided to reward them for a certain amount of time. They then stopped the reward process. And what they noticed was that the group of children had decreased in their willingness to get up and draw. And this was due to the fact that there was a change in focus of actually enjoying the activity to wanting a reward. Hence why hence their dopamine wasn't released for the effort. Rather, it had changed trajectory and they started to actually put the value to the reward, and their innate ability or willingness to want to draw changed. So it kind of shows us that manipulating the reward system is crucial so that we can place the satisfaction in effort rather than the reward or outcome. Not to say that it's not like the effort, the outcome and the satisfaction is not important. However, if you want to increase motivation, focus, satisfaction, then changing your mindset to reward effort helps a steady release of dopamine.
So, Habib, yeah, what happens when there's too much dopamine?
Well, having too much dopamine or too much dopamine concentrated in like some parts of the brain or not enough in other parts is linked to being more competitive, aggressive, having poor impulse control. It can lead to conditions that include ADHD, binge eating, addiction, gambling. You'll find a lot of the times people who get involved in drugs or certain things, the dopamine, you know, that feeling of euphoria, or with binge eating or anything like that, anything on a high level will cause your reward system and your satisfaction system to mess up, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
that's something I didn't know was, that it can lead to conditions that include ADHD. I didn't know
yeah,
that one. Like,
yeah, I
how,
was
how
reading
does
I was
it?
reading up on it. It was actually, it's there's a lot to read up. We'll put some articles and some reading links for the viewers, but there's a
Oh,
lot there. And it's really important to actually look at your dopamine system, and how it. I know it might be hard to look at it, but research into it. People, this is why we're making the video, so that people
mm.
can actually have a good, steady release of dopamine rather than an inconsistent release of dopamine, so that they can actually increase productivity.
Oh, right. So, I can understand the increase in productivity and everything, yeah. But I'd say if you have got too much dopamine, yeah, you've obviously established, exactly what can happen. Like binge eating, addiction, gambling. It might be linked to ADHD. But how do you return the dopamine to baseline amount?
Well, like we were talking about, Huberman, right? He was telling us to focus on effort. Effort, main thing is like you need to make sure that you're, as much as we look forward to achieving our goals and our targets, or trying to get a satisfied outcome, we need to try to put the focus mentally and try to actually say, you know what, I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing, whatever I'm doing, whenever I'm doing. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to feel satisfied that I made an effort. And you put that satisfaction to the effort. And as you, every day we're doing things. So every day when you're doing things, you start rewarding yourself for doing rather than achieving. And that's a more fulfilling life. So if you want a steady baseline of dopamine, whether you've got too much or too little, that's something that everyone should start doing, is start re-evaluating the way you look at things and start focusing on effort rather than reward. Other things you can do to reset your brain's dopamine levels are obviously creating exciting daily routines, incorporate fun activities into your daily routine, even if they're mindless activities. Focus on perfecting your sleep schedule, improve your diet, exercise, and definitely practice mindfulness.
All right. Do you know what? I've got something actually. From what I know about dopamine was addiction. Something that you said about addiction.
Yeah,
Um, there was a time when I was giving up smoking, went to go see the doctors, and they give you two types of medication. One is called Ziban, and one's called Champix.
yeah,
They've stopped doing Champix at the moment. Apparently, they found something that messes about with your dopamine levels a bit too much. Yeah, and it's not good for you. But Ziban, it was actually an antidepressant, and then they basically found out that those people who went on this medication that were smokers, they stopped smoking. So they started utilizing that, and they found that it was, say, there's in your brain, there's stems in your brain where the dopamine goes in. Yeah.
yeah,
You get satisfaction for when you're smoking. Like, you're talking about addiction,
yeah. There's a
and
connection, neural
dopamine
connection,
would
isn't it?
go into these neural connections right there. Yeah. And what happens? The Ziban would set off a chemical that would block these receptors. It would block these receptors for the dopamine to stop, giving you that satisfaction or that high from when you're smoking or anything.
Yeah,
And what happens is you actually start tasting the cigarette for what it is instead of getting that nice feeling, the nice flavor. You start getting the stale taste in your mouth, and you're like, no, this isn't actually nice. So you're not getting a benefit from it whatsoever.
yeah,
But what they found with Champix, or well, what I found with Champix when I was I was having unrealistic nightmares. They felt like they were real
oh wow,
the first 2 weeks, but it helped me quit. It helped me quit for a long time, and but obviously peer pressure took over and I'm back onto it. But forget that part. But what I was saying is that's what I know about how dopamine works. That's how I was introduced to dopamine, and then obviously I heard about other reasons why dopamine can help you, and controlling the dopamine levels can help you as well.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why we need to share information. We need to create dialogue. I think there's a lot of stuff going on about talking about nonsensical things. If we're going to have discussions, then we might as well share the best things that people can do. And I think it's time that we start teaching these things and embed them into curriculums and know how to help people get out of.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the 90 Degrees Fightcast, where we talked about dopamine and the benefits and the negatives and the positives on how it helps you. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and were able to benefit from it. If there is anything that you would like to add or discuss further, please feel free to drop us a comment down below.
Also, make sure you go back and look at the video on growth and fixed mindset. All of the videos that we're planning to do, 3-second rule that we've already done, tie into this. I'm carefully selecting certain topics that have helped me, that I've shared and helped other people. So
Definitely help me.
So it's one of those things. So make sure you look back at the previous episodes. We'll put a link in for you as well. And as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, follow us on social media for more information and updates on future episodes. Thank you, and see you in the next episode. Ordinary people, real talk.